Eastward is without a doubt a piece of art, and I wouldn't blame you if you got caught up in all the fun gameplay, breathtaking scenery, and cryptic story to the point where you simply forgot to keep up with all of the collectibles and achievements. Chances are, unless you were extremely thorough in your first playthrough, you missed some things along the way. And if you're here, you obviously know that there's a mini-game in Eastward called Earthborn, paired with a gacha system in order to get items for that mini-game. There can be a lot you can miss, but don't worry, I'm here to give you the complete guide to all the collectibles and achievements found in Eastward. As with my other guides, timestamps can be found in the description, and if you found anything confusing or have questions, ask in the comments below, and I'll try to respond as soon as possible. I worked really hard on this guide and would appreciate it greatly if you dropped a like or even subscribed if you enjoyed the guide or found it useful. Now, without further ado, let's get into my Completionist guide to Eastward. Here are some tips before we get started. These can be extremely useful for first-time players, as well as veterans of the game. If you don't plan to follow the guide completely, these can still help you in your playthrough of the game, because there's a lot of things that are easily missed. Number 1, during your playthrough, it is important to not move on until you've searched every given area completely. You often can't backtrack, so follow along carefully. Even though there's been a chapter select option introduced in the most recent patches, it's not a very convenient way to get back to where you're trying to go. I don't think any of the checkpoints are useful or convenient for our use here. Often, it will put you back at a cutscene and you'll have a lot of game to play through before you get back to the area where you need to get the collectible you're searching for or the items that you're trying to buy. Number 2, visit shops several times during your stay in the cities of Eastward. There are many missable food ingredients and food items that you never get the opportunity to purchase again. It's also wise to buy extra ingredients and save a good batch of every kind until you're ready to cook all recipes at the end of the game. Number 3, search for secret walls and pathways constantly when you're in the wild areas of Eastward. Some treasure chests are very tricky to find, and often, again, the chapter select menu does not let you get back to these areas very easily. Number 4, stock up on extra salt from salt bugs as often as possible. For the better half of my first playthrough, I didn't even understand what salt bugs were or how to get salt from them. So, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't know about this trick. There are a lot of expensive items in this game, not to mention you're going to be purchasing a lot of extra ingredients, as well as a large amount of Pixball tokens at the end of the game, which you'll need for several achievements. Number 5, talk to NPCs along your journey whenever possible. Not only is it cool to see the different personalities in the game, as every NPC is unique, some hints and achievements are gained only through doing this. Number 6, pay attention to Pixball inventory whenever you plan on using your tokens. All the prizing cycles, so don't waste your tokens on Pixballs that you've already collected. This will be explained deeper in the Pixball section. If you follow these tips, I don't think you'll have any problems finding the collectibles and getting the achievements in this game. I know some people might not want to follow it step by step and kind of go at it at their own pace. These tips should help you do that without even needing to follow the guide. Essentially, getting everything in Eastward is just about being thorough. Next up, here are the achievements that are unmissable. There are 11 in total, and you get them through the natural progression of the game, so you don't have to worry about missing any of them. The first set are from completing each chapter in the game. Eastward has a pretty distinct moment when you will finish each chapter, so you'll definitely know when you're going to be getting these achievements. The next 2 are gained from doing small tutorial portions at the beginning of the game. The first is Pixball Newbie. Use your first token and get your first Pixball. The second, Chef in Training, is from cooking the sandroot pasta for Sam and John. The last one, you'll be getting near the end of the game after you've done all side mission jobs. There are 30 achievements in total, so you can mark these 11 off as the ones that you'll never miss. Our first achievement is easily gained at the beginning of the game. You'll find these rocks littered around maps, and you can use them to defeat enemies at any time. Next, No Iron Team. This one can be tricky at times, but is fairly straightforward. Use Sam's bubble ability to hold enemies down and dispatch them with John. This next section isn't for an achievement, but it is for a bit of an Easter egg. You can purchase Wild Love at Hello Grocery in Potcrock Isle, and you can also find the Earthborn manga in the ruins of the mall, the first dungeon you go into. Once you escape the mayor's imprisonment, you can go up to the 2nd floor and replace his speech with one of the 2 books, and then you get to see this scene ensue. I personally found this pretty humorous, and it's a nice little addition to a run if you're looking for a little bit of variation that you might not have come across in your first playthrough. The next achievement can be gained at any point once you start finding salt bugs in Eastward. However, my personal favorite place is to farm in these locations in Chapter 3. Salt bugs luckily respawn whenever you go through one portion of the map and come back to the salt bug location, so you can technically get endless amounts of salt in one given location. It's also worth noting that these little floating eyeballs that you see throughout your playthrough can also be attacked with Sam in order to get a little bit more extra salt during your journey. The other great places to farm salt are in Chapter 7. The two locations that I prefer to farm salt bugs are the Mystery Dungeon where you find Sam's last ability, as well as Solomon's Grave, where there are 2 salt bugs, but this one is the easiest to get at. You want to make sure that you get enough salt for purchases of tokens for Pixballs, and any last upgrades you need to get. Next on our list is Nutrient Fortified. I just wanted to get this one out of the way because you don't actually get it until after your battle with Izzy, but that is only if you have collected all of the chests and done all of the side quests in the game for the heart pieces. Just like Nutrient Fortified, Armed to the Teeth, Prepared for Anything, and Monster Pack are only able to be gained at the end of the game. You may be able to get Prepared for Anything or Armed to the Teeth before this point, but you cannot get them both because the last few upgrade items are in chests in Sharon. Lastly, the last backpack upgrade is available here and only here. In the next section, we'll be covering important components of getting the Human Refrigerator, Fat and Happy, 5-Star Chef, and Monster Pack achievements. Although you can purchase backpack upgrades at any point during your playthrough, they are not necessary until the very end of the game in order to get the Monster Pack achievement. However, they are crucial in order to buy multiple food items and cook multiple food items, so I would suggest purchasing them whenever available. As I mentioned before, buying extra ingredients is extremely important and will allow you to easily get the Fat and Happy and 5-Star Chef achievement, but during your playthrough, you may need extra ingredients just to cook food items for healing purposes. An important reminder is that each main shop in Eastward has revolving inventory, so you'll have to revisit it multiple times to get all items available. The smaller shops do not have revolving inventory, so you often don't have to worry about them. The first shop is Hello Grocery that we run into in Potcrock Isle. The exclusive ingredient is potato here, and personally, I missed this in my first playthrough. The next store we come across is KK Dogs. The exclusive ingredients here are lettuce and mushroom and another batch of food items. The next area where we will find stores is in New Dam City. This is the single most densely packed area in the game. There are many stores and many opportunities to miss items. The first store we look at is the King Crab. It's important to note that through the progression of the story, the King Crab becomes available as an ingredient. You need to come back to this store multiple times to purchase the crab because it only comes in a batch of 1 or 2 at a time. Next store we'll look at is the Friendly Spendy. There are many items that are available to be missed here. We have egg, tofu, ham, chicken, daikon, eggplant, onion, and Napa cabbage. Next up, and located in Uptown of New Dam City, is Lightning Max and Jazz 21. Lightning Max has 2 beverages to be purchased. It's also important to note that if you enter these locations as Sam, the inventory will be limited, so you must enter as John in order to get all of the food items available to you. Jazz 21 has a few food items as well as several beverages. A quick note I wanted to make is that it's important to drop by Johnny's Emporium several times during these chapters because most of the upgrades you will get will start to become available during this time. Next is Tayama's. You can only purchase ice cream and pudding here. Through the natural progression of the story, the Dragon Market will open and multiple vendors will become available to you. First up, Sawcopter Snacks. It's important to have enough salt to purchase these food items because they're easily missed. Next is a few vendors who offer you fish, but you can purchase these later, so don't worry about those. Next, in Dragon Produce, you get pineapple, and also lemon becomes available if you revisit. These are the last opportunities to get those. Next is the ingredient store at Dagama. Not really important to get these spices because you can get them later. A very easy to miss food item becomes available after giving Glazzy Berries to Daniel. William will be selling Glazzy Berry Jam outside of Tayama's after this story beat. The next place to purchase food items comes much later in Monk Hollywood. You can purchase banana milk, choco bananas, and frog cookies from Banana Milk Store, as well as milk. The last shops we'll come across in the game are in Esther City. There's Mama Bread, for a 1 food purchase item. And then there's Dog Bee Grocery, which will have a immense amount of ingredients that you can purchase. Everything here is exclusive, as this is the last store in the game you'll be purchasing ingredients. It's also important to purchase the food items that are available here. The ingredients available are cheese, milk, pork belly, ribs, clam, carrot, fish, tomato, pumpkin, sandroot, apple, and cherry. Quite a mouthful, a lot of ingredients to get. At this point, you should have the human refrigerator achievement. Next achievement we're going to cover is the 5-star chef achievement. I'm going to go through each of the recipes one by one. Some of the recipes in the game are only available through side quests, so it's important that you come across these for the Fat and Happy and 5-star chef achievement. One of my favorite areas in Eastward, if not my favorite area, is the campsite in Chapter 3. It is very aesthetically pleasing and I love it very much, so we're going to cover the 5-star chef achievement here. It's important to note that each recipe in Eastward is made up of 3 ingredients, so you could interchange them as you please if there's only 2 shown. So for instance, for some of the recipes, you could put 2 veggie or 2 dairy. It doesn't really matter. So in this case, you could use a veggie and 2 dairy, or 2 veggie and a dairy item. A lot of the recipes work this way. There are 3 recipes in this list that can be learnt through a side quest. The others would be gained through an experimentation, or you're coming to my guide in order to figure out what they are. However, it's important to note that you will still have to eat the items that you create during side quests or main storylines. These items would be the vegetable stir fry, the burger set, the diet set, which are obtained in a side quest. Then there's sandroot pasta and the big damn crab pot, which are obtained through the main storyline. Luckily, this is the only scenario where the chapter select actually comes in handy, since our recipe list is saved even if we complete the game. So if you miss some ingredients and just need to make a few more recipes, it's not too inconvenient to use chapter select in order to gain these. The more elusive recipes in the game are located in the bottom 2 rows of the recipe list. These specialty dishes need specific ingredients in order to make them. This is why I always suggest to save ingredients until the end of the game, because there could be some very specific ingredients you need to make the last 2 rows of this list. The first you make in the first chapter, which is sandroot pasta, made up of 3 sandroot. Next comes fries, made with 3 potatoes. The next is pumpkin soup, made with pumpkin, milk, and onion. Mushroom pasta is next, made with milk, ham, and mushroom. Big damn crab pot, which is the more difficult to make, with 3 crab. Next is the diet set, made with egg, chicken, and lobster, also available through a side quest. Next is crab roe tofu, made with tofu, crab, and egg. Next is lasagna, made with cheese, tomato, and pork belly. Takoyaki is next, with octopus, egg, and onion. And lastly, tacos with lettuce, ribs, and tomato. These recipes are also organized by the time they are available in the game. So the ingredients that they are made of become available in chronological order of where they are located on the recipe list. For instance, tacos, the only time you get ribs is at the very end of the game in Esther City. That's why it's last on the list. At this point in the game, the Fat and Happy achievement should become available to you. You should be in Esther City, and due to that fact, you have eaten every purchased item up until this point. With the last few ingredients and food items that you have purchased from the shops of Esther, all that's left to do is to cook up the last few recipes to gain the 5-star chef achievement, and afterwards, eat those culinary dishes. Beyond that, there's only one elusive way to miss this achievement, which I assume most people can miss if they've never purchased an energy drink from Final Johnny's or one of the vending machines throughout Eastward, which usually appear outside boss battles. In this next section, we are covering the A Person with Heart achievement. Earlander, Social Butterfly, and Nutrient Fortified are also affected by this. First side quest I'm covering is the one in which we encounter Mimi, the Phantom Storyteller. The first location we find her is in this back alley outside Rocket Mansion. The second location she can be found is in an alleyway in the lower New Dam City, where she will tell you another one of her ghost stories. The third location you can find Mimi becomes available once Dragon Market opens. Go to the west side of the map and you will find another statue where you will be told another grueling tale. The next area a statue is located is in the slums behind Dragon Market. Normally there's an NPC in here and you'd have to knock on the wall in order to gain access to her home. However, at certain points the NPC is gone and you gain full access to the statue without the NPC impeding you. The last area is located at the hot springs, where you gain access after some story beats. Mimi will tell you her final story here. The conclusion of this side quest happens in Uptown, where you find an interaction at the main shrine in the city. Mimi will tell you about her story and then give you a heart piece. The next side quest is engaged by talking to the secretive Bud who hides in trash cans around New Dam City. The first one located is in Uptown, as you can see here. The next one is located in the subway after you encounter the first one. And the third location is in the Dragon Market once it opens. After you encounter Bud and he reveals himself, he will give you a heart piece. The next side quest in New Dam City affects Fat and Happy and the 5-star chef achievement. We have Dwayne here who wants to woo his love, but he needs our help. You get sent to collect different recipes in this side quest, some of which can be made without the help of this side quest, but it's a convenient way to learn the recipes if you're just going through the game naturally. First recipe we get is the burger set, which fails for Dwayne. He becomes a little bit too tubby, so we need to find a way to reverse this issue. The next place we'll go is into the Lowtown slums behind the Dragon Market for a vegetable stir-fry recipe. Although this character asks you to purchase the recipe, I never saw any loss in salt from going through this interaction. This will get Dwayne back to normal, however, he is still in a pickle. My first time through the game, I thought this is where the side quest ended. However, this is not where it ended. You need to go into Jazz 21, speak to this individual, and get the recipe for the diet set. Once you do this and give the diet set to Dwayne, he will be ecstatic with the results, and he will give you a heart piece in return for your hard effort. The next side quest that you can go on is not to gain anything that will affect any achievements. However, it is a little bit helpful because you get a lot of salt from it. Through collecting chests in the story progression, you can find this chest behind the waterfall when you're getting the gold snapper. If you retrieve the Pearl of the Valley and return to this individual in New Dam City, he will give you 200 salts in return for this item. The next section of side quests allow you to gain some extra tokens for the Pixball machine. These little mini games become available once again after you go through the story beats that involve the circus. You can return to the circus after everybody's been pleased with how everything went and do some more difficult versions of the mini games you had done prior with these characters. Honestly, they're a lot of fun. I highly suggest you do them. They're not necessary, but it's great to get some extra tokens so you can save some money later. The next achievement we're covering is the Naturally Gifted achievement. This achievement requires you to seek out some mysterious areas in the world of Eastward and find some exclusive abilities for Sam. These abilities become quite useful later on, especially the third ability you gain through these mysterious dungeons. You'll first encounter one of these dungeons and gain access to it in Chapter 3. However, it may be before you get the flamethrower gun, so you'll need to return once you've gained that. The puzzles here are quite simple, however, I'll show you on screen how you can get through these areas if you have any trouble. Most of them require Sam's abilities to get through. Seldom does it need John to do anything in these dungeons besides defeat enemies. Next raft section can be a bit tough because you're essentially doing a puzzle where you need to bounce between certain points and destroy the flowers that block your way. Sometimes the flowers are required to bounce off of in order to get into the next section of the raft puzzle. These sections where you use Sam's abilities are a little bit more difficult and require you to be quite quick on the trigger. Otherwise, you will not be getting through to the next area. The best tip I can give you for these puzzles is shooting Sam's bubble ability farther than it needs to go, and then properly positioning Sam behind the beacon, and in that same moment, hit other beacons while you wait. First ability you get is the Energy Shield, which can become useful. However, I never found myself using it during my playthroughs. The next mysterious area is immediately available to you if you travel east of the outskirts of New Dam City. This cave actually leads to the valley. However, if you inspect the wall to the right of this bench here, you will find a hidden pathway. All you need to do is move a box out of the way, and then you'll be able to ascend some stairs. In the next area, all you have to do is bomb this cracked wall, and then you will gain access to the dungeon. This area is also quite simple, just filled with puzzles that require Sam's abilities, and a little bit of John's help. These puzzles only require you to be a little quick and accurate with Sam's abilities, otherwise they're fairly simple. After this dungeon, you will be getting the energy heal ability, which in my opinion is the most useful out of the 3 abilities that you'll be gaining for Sam. The next mysterious area only becomes available in Chapter 7 on the Island of Time after you have talked to Thomas. These little beacons will show themselves in the southmost portion of the map. You just need to hit them with Sam's abilities in order to enter. Next, there are only some flowers blocking your way in a small bomb puzzle shown here, where you'll need to toss one of the remote bombs given to you by Thomas in order to open up the dungeon. Out of all the areas, this area is the easiest to get through the particular puzzles. All you have to do is talk to the robots in order to see the sequence of lights you're supposed to hit. However, this area is unique because it has a semi-difficult mini-boss battle. The most annoying part of this battle is the bugs that appear. I highly suggest using the remote bombs to dispatch the bug enemies. The robot itself is actually quite easy. It's the bugs that are the issue, and they hit hard, so bring some food items with you. After this, you will get Sam's last ability, which will only increase her latent abilities. The next achievement we're covering is the Treasure Hunter achievement. Probably the most, if not the most difficult achievement to gain in this game, and probably the one most of you are using this guide to seek out. At the beginning of each chapter, I'll be labeling how many treasure chests are available in that given chapter. Also, it's worth noting that the most important item you're going to need for this achievement is bought at the very beginning of the game. It's probably the most important item in the game. It's the treasure radar, worth 50 salt. Some of you may have missed this by happenstance because you were trying to save and use your salt for later, but is definitely worth the purchase. The first treasure chest is available to the east of the map, right off the bat, at the top of the cliff behind the mayor's house. It is a chest through a secret passage that has some tokens inside. Next chest is available behind the Sunnyside Ranch. Very easy to locate. In the main area of Potcrock Isle with the shops, in the southern portion there is a secret passage with a chest inside. Next chest available is in the Digger dorms. Just through a door you'll find a chest. Next chest is definitely missable. Once you get bombs, you will find a chest behind a cracked wall. This chest to the west of John's house is easily missable if you're not talking to all the NPCs. The first chest in Chapter 1 is available in the school. You'll find it at the back of a teacher's classroom. Second chest available is once you go into the bathroom dungeon. You will find a heart container available on the west side of the map. The next chest is easily missable once you gain access to the ruined mall. This next collectible is not necessary for the Treasure Hunter achievement. However, it is used in a Easter egg later on. It's the Earthborn manga. The next chest available is in the lower section of the mall, behind 2 bookcases. Drag them back to reveal a door. And in that room, you will find a chest. Next chest available is only found by hugging the left side of the map when you're in this area with all the broken down shelves. super easy to miss, as it is a bit of a hidden area. However, your radar will still make sounds, so you'll be able to find it. Next chest is behind another bookcase. In that room, you can find a heart piece. Before you ascend through this bombed area, go into this room here with the enemies, and the chest will be available to you once you dispatch the baddies. This next chest is probably easily missed if you don't explore, but on the west side of this grassy area, you will find a chest. Next chest is only available to get while you are Sam after the boss battle. This is one of the ones I missed during my first playthrough because I didn't understand how to get to it, nor did I understand that backtracking wasn't available. So, this heart piece can be easily missed by some, however, it's quite obviously in the center of the room while you go through this area. Next chest is also easily missed if you don't explore enough. In the diggers area, if you go over to the left, there'll be some flowers that block your way, and only as Sam can you access this chest. Next set of chests you'll be getting is after you're imprisoned by the mayor. First chest we're going after is over here, as you can see, which takes a little bit of getting to by going through the dungeon. You'll go up and around over here into this lower area, but just go north, and you'll go through a secret passage to gain the chest. This area can also be easily missed, as it is a secret wall harboring a chest. The next chest, again, is located in a hidden passageway. Easily missed unless your radar chimes. The chest can be found in this dark hallway. Next chest is pretty hard to miss, as you can see it as soon as you enter this room. There's just a bit of a false wall here, which you will go through to get the heart piece. It's also worth noting that at this point, you should have a total of 6 hearts. This next chest is a bit easy to miss. Once you're going through this section of puzzles with Sam and John, you will need to move the steam back with the leftmost button in order to give John access to this chest. Again, further into this puzzle that revolves around switching between John and Sam, there is a secret area here, even I almost missed it, for this chest. Next section here that harbors a chest is pretty obvious. You just want to go off to the left and allow John to go through this passageway, and you'll find another chest. This one is pretty straightforward. There's a door, you can clearly see the heart piece. The first chest you can get in Chapter 2 is slightly hidden behind some trees. Next chest is within Greenberg. You have to go into the lower portion and go through the wheat field. This chest is easily missed. It's behind the town center. Next chest is also one that is easily missed. It is tucked behind the hunter's cabin, all the way back here. And a little bit of soccer. I always enjoyed that you could interact with objects. Nothing to do with the achievement, of course. Just a fun little moment. The next set of chests are available after doing the Pig Ranch story beat. You'll go through a tube and get this one with Sam. Next chest is to the north in this section, where it is guarded by an enemy. You have to turn your back on the enemy in order to get them out of the way, and you'll get the chest. After the raft section, it's easy to miss this one. You have to go through a false set of walls and then even into a different screen to get this chest. This next chest is in the lower right of the map. As you can see here, you go through some enemies to go to this island for the piece. Next chest is tucked away in the next section. Very easy to see. This chest is very easy to miss. When you're in the breeder area, you go over to the left and find a chest in one of the rooms. This chest is also very easy to miss. After the party with everybody, make sure you re-enter the wood whale in order to get the chest. This is one of the scenarios that the chapter selection is a little bit funky, so even if you choose chapter 3, you will not appear at this section. You do have to still beat chapter 2 to get here, but it's still technically chapter 3 because you're in New Dam City. You'll find your first chest underneath this awning. Your next chest will be beside the friendly Spendy. The chest after that is found in the corridors of Jazz 21. The next chest is in this alley outside of Miss Toyama's. Along with these sunflowers, you'll find a chest. The next chest is available to you once you can go to the outskirts of New Dam City. This is one of the more fun areas, I would say, as you'll have to take on a few space cows to get this heart piece. Enjoy the battle. At this point, you should have 9 hearts. The next chest is located in Old New Dam City, where if you hug the left of this forest here where these flies are located, you'll find a secret grove harboring a chest. The next chest is available to you once you enter Old Town. In this lower section through the miasma, you will find a chest that needs to be dragged out behind this tree. The next chest is located in this area once you have the flamethrower. It is somewhat easily missed, as you might not understand that you have to go over to the left here and burn a few sections of the thorny weeds in order to get this important item. Actually, it is Friends of Johnny card, which will gain you discounts whenever you visit a Johnny's in Eastward moving forward. Located in this back room, you'll go through a small puzzle with John and Sam in order to get this chest. In this next area, it's pretty simple. You just have to avoid a few enemies, which will not attack you, but you can stun them with a Sam in order to get a heart piece. This next chest, all you have to do is simply go to the outside of this area, back into the left of this building, and you'll find a chest. The next chest is simply available once you're leaving Old Town. You'll use the flamethrower to gain the chest in this building. The next chest is available once you go through the segment of Sam at the casino. You will find a chest to the east of the corridor. The next set of chests are available to you once you are back in the outskirts of New Dam City. You'll go into this cave and go through a few sections of enemies. In the southwestern portion of the cave, there's a chest available to you. Quite out in the open. Next chest is behind a fragile wall, which you can use a bomb to destroy. Within, you'll have to go through a small battle with some enemies in order to get access to this chest. The next chest is available in this house, further into the outskirts of New Dam City. Quite simply, you just need to burn through the bushes into the backmost portion of the room to get the chest. The next chest that is available to you is in the south of New Dam City outskirts, where there's a small raft puzzle waiting for you. Once you get through the raft puzzle, you will enter a cave. In this cave is one of the mystery areas where John will have to do battle with a mini-boss. And you get access to a heart piece. Back in the low town of New Dam City, if you go to the westernmost portion of this map, you'll get a chest. The next chest is available to you behind the ice cream cart in the carnival area. Very easy to be missed. Once you're in the Gold Snapper mission of the storyline, you can go to the easternmost portion of this map, and you'll find a small house with a rope inside. Descend and go through this dungeon to find a couple of mini-bosses that await you. Once defeating them, you will be collecting 2 chests. One harbors a gear part, and another harbors a piece of heart. Continuing through the valley, you'll find many chests. One chest is hidden here before releasing a large part of junk in the water. The next chest is passed through a series of weed monsters, as I like to call them. Once you push this garbage can out of the way, there will be a small hidden passage here in order to get this hidden chest. The next chest will chime in this area with the weeds. However, it won't be clear where you need to go. You need to head south through this secret passage. And there'll be a couple of wasp enemies waiting here for you. Once you defeat them, you get a piece of heart. The next chest is one that can be used for a small side quest. You bomb this cracked wall behind the waterfall, and you will get the item called Pearl of the Valley. In Chapter 4, the first chest you'll come across is in the sewers. You'll lower the water as Sam, and the chest can be received as John. The next chest is easily missed. You need to pull this garbage container back in order to gain access to this chest hidden behind the wall. In the lower dam area, you'll come to a T section in the map. Head to the left and go through a small puzzle with Sam and John to gain access to this chest. The next chest is quite tricky. You'll hear the chime of the radar, and you'll need to hit a floating bomb in order to hit a generator that is clogged with vines. Once the vines are burnt, a bridge will open up that will give you access to a chest. The next chest is slightly difficult. You have to do a small raft puzzle with John and Sam. Sam will need to be the one controlling the raft in order to give you access to the heart piece chest on the other side. At this point in the game, you should have 13 hearts. Once you pull the switch for the sluice control in the lower dam, in the next section of the map, you will need to move a cart that blocks your way, which will reveal a secret hallway that harbors a chest. The next chest is available to you behind this waterfall in the other side of lower dam. A heart piece will be behind it. This section of lower dam is a bit complicated, And in order to gain access to this chest on the left, Sam will need to come down the elevator to your right in order to raise the platform for John to get the chest. This next chest is very tricky and very easily missed. There are two opportunities to gain this chest. One is by hitting the button that would be located here in order to gain the chest, but once the elevator is already jammed, you'll be able to find the secret room where the chest is inside. After the next story beat, you'll come to this memory sequence. There is a chest hidden in one of the rooms. If you go off to the right here, the locker room will be holding a chest. The first chest in Chapter 5 is located in the sewer area here of Lowtown, where you're letting Sam pass through by hitting bombs into boxes. Sam will be able to find this chest on the easternmost portion of the room. It is hidden in a secret hallway. This next chest is available in the northernmost portion of this room with the miasma monsters in it. You'll come to a bookcase that you must pull away to reveal a heart piece. At this portion of the Lowtown sewers shown on the map here, there are some shadows of some enemies that are hanging from the ceiling. Be sure not to miss this chest because your radar will not chime when you're in the lower portion of this map. The last chest in Chapter 5 is pretty hard to miss. It's plain as day, right here after defeating some enemies. Chapter 6 does not have many chests, however some are still missable. In the second floor of the train behind this dragon scene, you will find the first chest of Chapter 6. This chest can be gained either before or after the scenes with John using the toy gun and acting for the monkeys. You just have to go to the top portion of this train car and you will find a chest that needs to be pulled out from the luggage. Earlier in the chapter, you'll be able to see this chest, but not gain access to it. Once you're thrown in jail by the monkeys, you can simply go through this jail cell and grab the chest. This next chest is in plain sight, but a little bit difficult to get as you're going through this stealth mission. And once again, there's another chest sitting plain as day. The only difficulty is here that there are monkeys around trying to throw you in jail. The last chest of Chapter 6 is a heart piece in the rear train cars where Solomon is located. The first chest of Chapter 6 will be once you enter Esther City, and it is in the rear area of the Harbor Shack. Next chest is found in an alleyway by the token robot. You can easily find this chest because of the chiming that you'll hear in this area. However, it's a little bit harder to see. It is behind this building, very well hidden. In Chapter 7, once you gain access to the Island of Time, there are several chests that can be found in different alcoves of the island. The first one is found beyond this enemy. The next chest you can find is beyond this slightly hidden staircase here. You'll find a few crab enemies that you'll dispatch, and then you'll need to do a long shot with Sam's light ability. Once you hit the beacon, it will reveal the chest. Once back in Esther City, you'll gain access to the train graveyard, where you'll find a chest. The next chest available to you will be in Solomon's grave. You'll need to bomb a wall to get access to a heart piece. Once this piece is collected, you should have 17 hearts. After exiting the first portion of Solomon's grave, head to the right and there'll be a staircase. In this next area, there'll be a few enemies, as well as an out-of-sight beacon, which you'll need to hit with Sam's long shot ability to reveal the chest. This next chest is in plain sight, however you'll need to charge up Sam's bubble ability in order to gain access to it. The next chest is quite obvious. You just need to defeat some enemies to gain access to it. Once re-entering Solomon's Grave, you just need to head into this left chamber. Dispel this shield with Sam's bubble ability to gain access to the chest. The next set of chests will be inside the Eternal Tower in Esther City. This first chest is found off to the left portion of the second floor. Some are easily missed. This one, in fact, I missed on my first playthrough and was the final chest I was looking for. The next chest you can find, which is also off to the left of the second floor, is just a chest protected by a bubble. Off to the right portion of the second floor, you will find another chest protected by a bubble. Hard to miss. This next chest is located behind a hidden wall. This chest is difficult to locate if you don't think to go into this lower portion. It's found on the left-hand side of the third floor. You'll need to do this small platform puzzle in order to gain access to the heart piece chest on the other side. There will also be some enemies that will spawn. Now, on the right-hand side of the third floor, you will find a chest hidden behind this palm tree. 2 enemies will spawn, but don't worry about it. When re-entering the tower, the true tower, this is once you've reached the top floor of the fake Eternal Tower, you'll get a heart piece. There are only 3 chests in Chapter 8, one of which you'll find after your first sub-boss encounter. Head to the top right to this platform. You'll be teleported to a room that holds a chest. The next chest can be found once you go through a series of moving platforms. You'll see these pots. Keep on heading south, then to the left, to a teleport pad that will take you into a room with another chest. The last chest of Chapter 8 can be found through this swamp-like yellow-tinted miasma area. After you pass through the map, you will find your last heart piece chest and the last chest of the game. Congratulations, if you followed this section completely, you should have the Treasure Hunter achievement. Now that we're at the end of Eastward, I just want to say a big thank you to all of you who have followed along so far. I hope that this guide has been extremely useful. Eastward is a fantastic game, and I just can't say enough about it. That's why I was inspired to make this guide. But you know, as well as I do, that you don't have all the achievements yet. That's right, folks. The wonderful creators of Eastward made not 1, but 2 games for your enjoyment. The game within the game, the amazing JRPG that is a hell of a lot of fun and extremely addicting. It's the one, the only, it's Earthborn. My first playthrough of Eastward, I never even touched Earthborn, which honestly is fine because I think you'll have more fun once you leave Earthborn for your second playthrough or until you're done the game. However, it is a huge portion of this game that makes Eastward amazing. For our first achievement, we're going to be focusing on your first run through Earthborn, which is quite easy, and then we're going to be covering Pixballs and the final achievement in Eastward. If you're starting Earthborn like I did in New Dam City, at this point you should already have a number of items from Pixballs. You don't need to have an immense amount at this point. That's why I say right now is a good time to start, because for this first run through Earthborn, it's quite easy. It's kind of like a tutorial to get you set up for what you're going to be facing later on in your next run through Earthborn. You're going to be going through a few tutorial fights, and you'll have the merchant join you in the first fight. He is okay, but his skills lack, and probably the best thing that you can do is use the golden dart ability. The knight's main job is to cover for his friends, so he'll be taking the main damage. You have to really make sure you watch his health, because if he dies, you get a game over. Once saving the mysterious girl, you'll have her and the monkey join your party. However, the monkey is the only one that will be able to assist you in battle. Next, the inn is probably one of the most important places in the game. In your first run of the game, the shop and the tavern aren't really that important. Because the merchant's in your party, you're allowed to shop from him whenever you please. Otherwise, the massage and revive aspects of the inn are important because you want to keep yourself healed up and your party members alive. Although I don't expect you to do this much in your first run through of the game, if you can get to these statues and activate them, they are super crucial later on. However, I doubt that you'll open up many of them because the map is gigantic and very hard to traverse in your first run of the game. I also suggest looking at the instruction booklet for the game. It's kind of cool to look through. It gives you some vague tips, but nothing truly helpful. My first fundamental tip for playing Earthborn is that you should seek out caves for extra experience and gold. Fighting monsters in the overworld is very inefficient because there is a 7-day timer, and at the end of that, you'll be fighting the Demon King. So you need to gain as many levels and as much gold to buy items as possible during your 7-day journey. Caves are great because they don't expend any time on your 7-day timer. However, they are a little bit out of the way. They still get you more experience and gold than you would find in the overworld. The next thing we need to cover are the enemies that blockade areas of the overworld. These are stronger enemies, and you only have a certain set number of turns to defeat them. Otherwise, you'll have to re-enter the battle. These fights often aren't too difficult, depending on where you are in the map. First few that you come across in the western and southwestern areas of the map are not that hard. The further north you go, the harder they get. On your first run, it is helpful to find these pelican statues because they do allow you to teleport back to the inn or any other area of the map. However, it will probably not be until your second run through Earthborn that you'll be able to unlock most of these. If you're going to do any shopping in your first run through Earthborn, the Wolf Claw is one of the best items to get the Knight. Although the item makes it sound like you'll only be able to attack twice sometimes, it actually happens quite often. So as you continue through your first run, you should just be seeking out caves. Again, we go through another cave, and we level up quite efficiently. You want to be at least level 4 or level 5 before you take on the Demon King, unless you have a lot of items. So here we are, fighting the Demon King for the first time. The ritual happens on the 7th day, the timer takes you to the inn, and once you've healed up, you can head on to the castle. When you're first facing the Demon King, he does hit quite hard. It is your responsibility to keep your party healed up, but your priority is the Knight. Also, the Demon King has an energy sap ability, so if you do use an AP potion, or if you have any AP available to you, it is smart to use that AP as soon as possible. Another item that's great when you first encounter the Demon King are the Shining Gloves. They stun the enemy, and especially since he's the boss monster in this game, not allowing him to attack is pretty much what you want to do in order to defeat him easily. After that, it's just a bit of a battle of attrition. If you were wise and saved some items for this last battle, that's great. However, this first encounter with the Demon King is actually not that hard, so you shouldn't have to use too many items to keep him at bay. I made this look quite easy because I was using the Shining Gloves and Wolf Claw to give me a better percentage of stunning the Demon King, not allowing him to damage my party. I think at this portion of your first run, the most important thing that you need are miracle scales, which will revive your party members. And with that, the Demon King has been defeated. You will get the achievement after you get back to the main screen. And there you have it. You will have the Another Story achievement unlocked. This next segment of the guide is going to cover the Pixball Collector and Pixball Master achievements. Both of these achievements are going to require you to have a lot of tokens and possibly be at the end of the game. I also suggest not trying to collect all the Pixballs until you have played through Earthborn and defeated the Demon King at least once. This is due to the fact that some unique Pixballs do not become available until later on. Besides the Fat Dragon, which you get in Chapter 3, these Dragon Pixballs, as well as the Pixel King Pixball, will not appear when you are using your tokens until you have beaten Earthborn at least once. Here I'm going to cover my strategy for getting a lot of salt in order to buy tokens. Personally, I believe the best way to farm salt is in Chapter 7 on the Island of Time. In the mysterious dungeon where you get Sam's third ability, there is a salt bug here, which you can farm from. Your other option is also in Chapter 7 to go to Solomon's Grave. There's a great salt bug right inside the entrance where you just need to farm that salt bug, exit the grave, and then come back in. Lots of salt that you can get from here as well. Once you feel you have enough salt, come back to Esther City, and in the eastern portion of Wisdom Street, there is a robot that will sell you tokens. And trust me, you're going to need a lot. I mean a lot. Like a lot. Like more than 20, more than 30, the chances of you getting all the Pixballs are low. Now, if you were an idiot like me, and maybe didn't check which Pixballs you were getting when you were using your tokens, you might find yourself in a bit of a pickle. Don't worry, as long as you've got into the Eternal Tower without ascending to the top, there is still a way to get salt from salt bugs. There's one salt bug that spawns in the Eternal Tower. He is on the 3rd floor on the left-hand side, and you can farm him like this. This is the last way to farm salt in the game once you've returned to Esther, and the last place that you can get salt before the end of the game. And here we are, my walk of shame back to purchase tokens because I'm a gacha addict, and I made several errors while trying to get these achievements. I am going to make sure that you guys do not follow in my footsteps, and I'll tell you about my errors. Here we have the Demon King that I'm missing and the Vulture. The mistake I made is thinking that the Pixball machine is just random, but as you see here, there are different prizings available. So the top prize is Demon King, then there's the Mummy and the Dark Knight, and then some other common prizes. If you don't like what you see, you can keep on coming in and out of the Lumpy Pirates and auto-saving, exit to the main menu and reloading, in order to get the ones that you want. You may have to do this process 10 or 20 times before you get what you need. Here I got the alternate mummy, which I needed. And once again, you'll see me getting the alternate Venom Bane. Honestly, this achievement took me a really long time to get, probably longer than it'll take you because of the errors I made. Here we have the Pixball Master finally, and of course, I have to do a little celebration dance because it took hours of collecting salt and searching for these Pixballs. The RNG was definitely not kind to me. There's a really important disclaimer for you guys. The reason why I was so excited about gaining this achievement is because there is something that happens when you do chapter select in this game, or when you start a new game period from your old save. So let's say you just beat the game and you collected a vast amount of Pixballs and alternate Pixballs while you're making your way through the game. When you chapter select from your save file or create a new save file, you will reset the alternate Pixballs that you got. So all the alternate arts will be gone. The normal Pixballs will still be there, and the amount of Pixballs that you have will still be there, but you'll need to go through the grueling process of trying to get these alternates all over again. So fair warning, try to get all Pixballs in one run of the game so the alternates do not disappear. Another quick note before we get into the last achievement of the game. The reason why I did the Pixball section here is because you will want to have collected a lot of Pixballs to this point. I cannot describe how many Pixballs I used and how crucial they were to gaining the last achievement in the game. There are many important items that you can have, and there's no such thing as having too many. However, the most important ones that you're looking for are the Demon King, which restores AP to all your party members, the True Demon King, which stuns all enemies, and the most important item, and I cannot stress this enough, the more you have, the easier this achievement will be to get, is the Pixel King, which all damage taken is turned into HP instead of damage. This will make your life much easier when you're trying to gain this achievement. I would say use my list of items as the bare minimum. If you can do it with less, congratulations, but I would say I had a lot of fun with the trial and error of trying to gain this achievement. It wasn't necessarily hard, but it wasn't necessarily easy either. I had to make a lot of mistakes in order to get it, but that's kind of what the fun of it is. You do a bit of experimentation with the items you buy and where you level up, what you do in order to get the optimal set for beating Earthborn a second time and getting the true ending. The last achievement that we're looking to gain in Eastward is Earthborn. Now, this achievement in particular is going to take quite a bit of setup in order to get, but you will have an easier time if you've taken all of the precautions, like getting a number of the Pixballs that I noted in the last segment. In the end, there are still a lot of enemies that you will face that will probably give you a difficult time, so these items are simply just for survivability. The game gets significantly more difficult after your first successful defeat of the Demon King. Every subsequent attempt after this, it will be a bit of trial and error in order to discover all areas of the map, as well as testing out different items and what suits you best. I will be discussing builds and the items that I chose in order to get this achievement, and what I personally believe is the best loadout in order to make things as smooth as possible. First, let's build on the basics. So, after your first defeat of the Demon King, new characters will become available to you. The Monk, the Priest, the Hunter, and the Mage will now be new members of your party that you can take on your journey. I highly suggest taking all 4 of the new characters instead of the Monkey and the Merchant, because frankly, the Monkey and the Merchant are very underpowered, and the 4 new characters get a lot more growth through taking on the 4 generals that you need to defeat before the final battle with the Demon King. As I covered in the Pixball segment, you should have a vast quantity of items to help you in your journey this time around, such as the sports drink, which will help you explore the overworld and find all the checkpoints you need in order to teleport around the map. The map is pretty big, so the only way you're able to get enough experience and gold to buy items is by unlocking all of the teleportation areas. This will also help you when you're fighting the 4 generals, because as the days go on, they attack the 4 different castles on the map, although if they conquer the castle, you will not be able to get the true ending of the game. They need to be defeated before the castles fall. I suggest actually getting to these castles preemptively even before they start their attack. Another notable place to explore is the Earth Goddess statue. It's located on the easternmost section of the map, and can be very handy because if you have extra gold lying around, you can get permanent stat boosts for your characters. The price does increase drastically every time you do this, so I only did it about 3 times at most, if I had the money for it. Another downside is the effect is totally random, so you have no control over what stats get boosted, and sometimes it's unhelpful. I covered this in the Another Story achievement when you're first playing through Earthborn, but caves are your best friend. They don't expel time in order to get into battles, and you often get a lot of gold and a lot of experience in a short time. There's also the strong monsters on the overworld map that can be useful to you, but I found these battles sometimes a little bit tough. If you're exploring the map, you will run into these battles quite often. Another reminder that you do have to clear out these monsters in the turns given to you, or else you'll have to do the battle all over again. In this next segment, I want to cover the threats to your run. So these are monsters that are extremely tricky, and if you run into them, they're definitely run enders. So the werewolf in particular, as we see here, has the counter ability. So you can actually get into a perpetual loop of fighting a werewolf and your run just ends right there, especially if you get into this loop as the knight. As we all know, he's the only character that actually needs to survive each encounter, so you need to make sure that the knight survives at all costs. Another threat that you might stumble upon without noticing is these dangerous caves that are located beyond locked portions of the Earthborn overworld. They often harbor difficult monsters to begin with. However, once you clear the difficult monsters, you'll be facing one of the 4 dragons that you may have noticed start to appear in Pix-balls once you've cleared the game the first time. These dragons aren't necessary to go up against in order to get this achievement, and are kind of like an extra side quest you can go on one of your runs if you are feeling brave. I always had trouble with these dragons and never actually defeated one of them in the time limit because these caves also have a turn timer associated with them. The last threat I want to talk about is the Demon King himself. So he has a pretty huge damage boost at this point, very different from your initial run of Earthborn, and he will be hitting you much harder. He is not pulling his punches this time around. There is also the Pixel King. Now, I stumbled upon this enemy only once after defeating the 4 generals, and I almost shit my pants because he has to be the most difficult enemy. You do have an infinite number of turns to try to defeat him, but I don't think that it is possible unless you are preparing specifically for this fight. Again, unnecessary for this achievement, but if you want to challenge yourself, go right ahead. He is definitely the strongest enemy in the game, and I have to be honest, I have no idea what happens if you do manage to defeat him, so that might be something that you want to discover all for yourself. He dodges or parries most attacks, and if you're lucky enough, you'll be able to hit him. Honestly, if I was going to take him on, the strategy I would go for is saving the vast amount of my items specifically for this battle and making sure you have an extremely good loadout at this point. Not to mention, you will need a bit of time because he randomly appears on the map. I'm not exactly sure what the percentage rate is for encountering him, but I imagine that it is quite difficult as there are a lot of other encounters that can pop up. If you do happen to stumble upon him, I suggest running. I did attempt to fight him, as you guys can see here, but it was not going well, and I just decided to flee because he was much stronger than I anticipated. I thought it'd be a fun little battle, but instead it was just terrifying. Probably the most important thing I will cover here in order to gain this achievement is the builds you should be going for with your items, as well as the character skill sets you want when you first start your run. Some skill sets are much better than others, so I suggest you take a look and perhaps restart the run if you're not satisfied with how they look. But first, let's cover items. So through this segment, you'll observe me using coupons as well as shop resets. These are going to be crucial items in order to cycle through and get the best items you can as quickly as possible, because you're obviously on a timer, and the generals are quite tough. Each time you defeat a general, they are going to get stronger. Some items also appear more often than others, so I definitely suggest checking in at the shop every single new day, because that is when the shop naturally restocks its inventory. Obviously, you can make this happen manually with the items of the shop reset, and you can reduce the costs with the coupons, which are extremely important items. I use them all the time because, you know what, you just don't get enough gold during your run in order to purchase all that high-cost equipment. With enough coupons used, you can obviously see here you get rock-bottom prices. All of those items are 7 gold, and there's one at 13, so you can really save up for some bigger items later on if you've used all your coupons, or you can use the rest of your extra gold at the Earth Goddess statue in order to get some permanent stat boosts. Items such as the Sharp Shield can be dangerous when you purchase them because if you run into a werewolf, the Sharp Shield will make that loop happen. Definitely suggest a staple of the Rage Belt. The Rage Belt should always be going onto your monk, as well as the Amplify Potion for your mage. Dragon's Fury and the Lucky Coat. These are 2 hugely important items. As you see here, I am going to be purchasing them because these are staple items. One for your knight. The Lucky Coat is probably the best item in the game in order for your knight's survivability, and the Dragon's Fury is extremely overpowered on your monk. In most cases, I would not put the Wolf Claw any longer on your knight. I know I suggested it in the first run of the game, but that's because it's a good base item in your first run. So at the beginning of each run, it would be wise to check the skills of each character. They do have a bit of a variation, so you'll notice that the passive skills as well as the active skills that you can use are different from time to time. There is a variation of each character that is better than the other. Sometimes it doesn't matter as much. I would say for the priest, there's the dark priest and like the light priest, I would call it. So there's one that does healing and one that steals HP with more damage heavy skills. As well as the mage, you always want to have the fireball ability because you can get an item that reduces it to a 2 cost And when the mage gets their secret skill unlocked, this can be very powerful because the mage's AP goes up to 10. So that is 5 fireballs in a row at the cost of 2, which frankly makes the mage the most important character in the game. I really didn't notice too much of a difference or if it mattered between the monk and the hunter, depending on which variation of the skill set you get. Your run will always rely more heavily on the mage and the priest's skill set, so always look for those. Now let's get into the important part. Here are my loadouts when I face the Demon King. The Novice Sword isn't necessary, but the Lucky Coat and Tree Root are super important. Lucky Coat reduces damage, and the Tree Root increases healing. The Monk needs the Dragon Fury and Rage Belt all the time. Can't go wrong with this one. Obviously, the Novice Gloves are not necessary, but a great addition. The Mage with the Amplified Potion and Energy Orb. These are super crucial. Amplified Potion increases damage. Energy Orb reduces the cost of all skills by 1. The Hunter's build, in my opinion, has the most flexibility. The Wolfclaw and Crit Amulet are really handy once his latent abilities are unlocked and he can fire arrows from the back row. He can land crits and sometimes double crits. This combo works especially well in boss fights. Last is the Priest. I would always go with the Priest with the healing abilities, Regen Seals to keep her healed up in the back row, and the Magic Echo occasionally casts skills twice, which is extremely helpful, especially at the end of the game where your only healing capabilities will be from your Priest. Now, armed with all of that information, you should be able to take on the 4 generals and face the true Demon King. First of all, you want to be traveling to the mountain castle. The reason is the Runeclaw is by far the strongest general in the game, I would say. Each general gets more powerful for the ones that you defeat prior to it, so defeating Runeclaw first is always a great strategy. A helpful tip is to use a greed gem at the beginning of every fight so you have extra gold at the end of the battle. There aren't many tips I can give to defeat Runeclaw besides hit him hard and hit him fast. The only real thing you have to worry about is his Illusion Strike, which hits all of your party members. Otherwise, he's not much of a threat besides being a heavy hitter. Also, because when you defeat a general, you unlock a particular character's latent abilities, having the hunter's latent ability be unlocked first is great because he can fire arrows from the back row. So for those reasons alone, it's obvious to fight Runeclaw first. Next up is the Snow Plains Castle. Now, the Mug's latent ability is not great. It's Scan. However, this general is particularly hard-hitting as well. General Rex will charge himself, making his next hits cause colossal damage. This is the only point in the game, besides the True Demon King, where I actually used the Defend ability, because all of my characters were vulnerable, and I wanted to make sure the Knight as well had that defensive position, so he would not lose all of his HP defending one of the other party members. This is also one of the points where I used stun grenades because I didn't want to have to deal with this ability too often. A word of caution is to use your items sparingly during the general fights and any fight leading up to them. I would highly suggest leveling up at least once or twice before facing your first general. However, it's not necessary. I often faced my first general as level 1, but having bought as many items as I could in order to make the battle easier. The next general I would face is at the Ocean Castle. This is Evil Wing. Evil Wing is a bit challenging because Evil Wing does spawn other enemies to fight alongside him. These are mages that cast Shadow Missile, which can cause massive damage. However, if you followed my instructions with the Monk build, you should have no trouble dispatching these enemies, as with Dragon's Fury, you'll be hitting every single enemy on the field, making it a piece of cake to remove them from the battle. Something else that's important to note is that Evil Wing will also attack your back row, so all of your party members are actually vulnerable during this entire fight. I did find that Evil Wing had fairly low HP though. The first 2 generals have higher HP ratios. At this point, the mage will unlock her latent ability, making her a true glass cannon. With 10 AP, she is now the best damage dealer on your team, so at every opportunity, get her to 10 AP and just blast enemies away. The last general I'll be facing is in the Desert Castle, which also unlocks the Priest latent ability. Venombane's HP is fairly low in comparison to the other generals. Even with the power-up from defeating the other 3 generals first, Venombane is a pretty easy battle altogether. Venombane does deal magic damage and can stun your party members. However, at this point, it all becomes fairly easy because all of your other party members have their latent abilities unlocked. With Venombane defeated, the Priest now unlocks the Prey ability. Now, with all the generals dispatched, you may even have some time left to get into some battles. If you're like me and you're stupid, you may encounter some enemies that could end your run, like we are almost ending it right now. My knight is at 1 HP, and by some happenstance, he survives. only because of the priest and because the knight defended himself. There's a reason why I warn you all about the werewolf enemies so many times in this guide, because they are very dangerous, and you should never underestimate them when you encounter them. I also happened to run into a dragon. Now, when I say I ran into it, I knew full well what was in this cave, but I thought at this point I was strong enough to take on a dragon. This is why I warned you about dragons, because you really have to prepare for fighting them. And honestly, I was thinking that my run was going to end here, but my saving grace was that the turn timer ran down, so I was able to continue my run, and I make a final stop at the Earth Goddess statue before taking on the Demon King. Lastly, we are facing the Demon King. After defeating all 4 generals in order to get the true ending, you will be facing the Demon King, and then afterwards, the true Demon King. The fight with the Demon King is actually not that hard if you have prepared properly and have enough items. The most important thing you actually have to watch out for is his energy sap ability, which will remove all of the AP from your party members and will leave you a bit defenseless. However, an AP potion will solve this quite easily. Beyond the energy sap ability, the thing that you need to worry about the most is the Hypno Wave ability that the Demon King has, as it may stun all of your party members in one fell swoop. Luckily, the mage doesn't get stunned in this last turn, and only using 6 AP is able to dish out 156 damage. This battle becomes quite easy as long as you prepared. Now we get into the hard part. Once you defeated the Demon King, you're going into the Dark World. There are several challenges that you are going to face before you even get to the true Demon King. There are several strong enemy roadblocks that await you, and you will have to utilize your newest party member, the Princess, in order to clear these enemies easily. Not only that, but you have no other way to heal besides the priest's healing abilities by letting her gain AP in the front row and simply defending, and then using the total heal during the battles in order to get your party back up to max HP. It is a bit difficult if you do not defeat these enemies in a timely fashion. They will withdraw, and you will have to go through the battles all over again. You only have 5 turns for each of these enemy roadblocks, so this makes it quite difficult. However, if you're using the princess to dispel them and take away their stat boost, things should go quite smoothly. Just make sure you're utilizing the priest as much as possible and healing up your party often. And finally, once you get through all of the enemy roadblocks, you will find yourself at the true Demon King. Much like the enemies, the Demon King will have a stat boost if he is cloaked in darkness. You will have to use the princess in order to dispel these stat boosts. The Demon King will hit very hard, especially if you do not dispel him in the same turn that he gets his stat boost. Not only that, but much like Rex the General, he does have the charge ability, so he can boost his incoming damage the following turn. It is wise to use the defend ability as many times as possible when he is either charged up or even when he's doing regular hits. It's also important to note that you do not have to worry about the princess, as the knight will always take damage for her when she is being targeted. All that being said, the last nuisance that the true Demon King presents to us is that he is able to hit the back row. So do not be surprised if you have party members falling in the back row, because he will target them quite often. In this particular battle, I found that no matter how hard I tried, my monk was always knocked out. This isn't really an issue because the monk is probably the least useful character in this situation. If you can keep your hunter alive in the back row, this is ideal because he will often do crits from the back row, making things go very smoothly. Your other strategy is, of course, to keep the mage alive and get her as much AP as possible to dish out a huge amount of damage against the Demon King. Beyond those strategies and defending with the knight as much as possible, the best thing you can do for yourself is saving healing skills as well as stun grenades for this battle. Stun grenades obviously are useful because the Demon King attacks multiple times in a turn and can overwhelm your priestess when she's trying to heal. And of course, the healing scales are probably the most useful item in the game because it grants all of your party members the damage absorb ability. So even your party members in the back row will not be vulnerable, and any hit will be transferred into HP for the turn. At this point in time, you can also sometimes see the priest's Echo Herb item activating. This makes things much easier as well because your party members are not getting 1, but 2 total heals. I would always suggest saving your AP on the priestess and using only total heals, and if you have any other healing items left besides the healing skills, I would utilize those in order to take some of the burden off of your priest so you can utilize her for better and bigger heals. The only other suggestions I have are saving AP potions and getting as many as you can from Pixballs for these fights and actually any fight in the game, because you're going to be relying mostly on your skills and, as I mentioned before, mostly the mage's skills. Ideally, you want the mage to have anywhere from 6 to 10 AP before you use a fireball attack. The last and final thing to note for the Demon King battle is the ability of Silence Zone. If the true Demon King uses Silence Zone, this isn't too big of a deal. It will only stall your abilities for a turn. This ability affects all your party members except for the princess. This can be solved in one turn, as the princess does have an ability that negates this. And although I'm always talking about how the mage is the greatest of all time and is the MVP in pretty much every battle, the hunter actually finishes off the true Demon King with a critical in my run. So it goes to show that defeating that first general so you unlock the hunter's ability is actually extremely helpful. I know some of you may suffer a bit along the way, but I promise you, with enough trial and error, you will get this achievement. It is a lot of fun playing Earthborn, and honestly, even though I was dying on a lot of runs from stupid stuff like just encountering a werewolf at the wrong time, I had so much fun playing this game. I found myself very addicted to it. Honestly, this game could have been released itself, and I would gladly pay money for it. The fact that it was included within Eastward as a part of the story is just wonderful. Hopefully, all of you had as fun of a time getting this achievement as I did, and hopefully all of my tips have helped you a lot during your journey through Earthborn and your battle against the true Demon King. And with that, we have all of the achievements unlocked. I want to say it was an absolute pleasure to play Eastward. There's so much love and creativity put into this game, I can't say enough good things about it. It's just a great experience altogether. I really do hope all of you found this video helpful and enjoyed my complete Eastward achievement and collectible guide. Hey everyone, I just wanted to make a bit of a closing statement and let you know how much fun it was to make this guide. I would really love your feedback, as I'm starting to think that making guides is something that I should start doing more on YouTube. Whether it be positive, negative, or just in general constructive, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Eastward is a fantastic game and the perfect type of game for a guide like this. I would really like to make more guides in the future, and I would appreciate any pointers that you have in order to make your playthrough of these games a bit smoother. I always want to make sure that these guides help you and are as thorough as possible. That's why the length of this video is as long as it is. I didn't want to miss any information, and I wanted to cover all bases when it came to what might confuse a person. There's also a chance that I missed something or made something confusing. So if you're still stumped after viewing the entire guide, please leave a comment in the section below and I will answer it as soon as possible. The last thing I'd like to say is that if you had a suggestion for a game that you would like to see a guide on, please leave it in the comments below. I will definitely take a look at all of the suggestions and consider it for a guide that I will make in the future. And on that note, ladies and gents, I appreciate you joining me today, and as always, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.